It's pretty relevant at the time, emotional intelligence. Emotions are running high. You can see it on the internet.
Okay. Well, look, what I'll do is there's some more people joining. I know there are, but it's 8 o'clock. So thanks for joining us, Beryl. And it's really good of you to do this and do this talk for me. We've met some years back now, and we've known each other a long time. I'd like to think, and I consider you a good friend, and you've helped me in what you do, and watching you present, it's helped me present. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Beryl. If you want to just introduce who you are, the things you've done, your books you've written, all of those things, and then you can get into talking about what you love and what you're passionate about. I know you are passionate about, and I know you were talking to me earlier about some new things that you're considering, which I think would be a really good topic, maybe to mention what you're going to do with that as well, with the bullying and all that kind of stuff. So off you go, and thanks again. I'm going to switch my camera off so I don't annoy you, and I'll switch my sound off. If you want to speak to anyone, you just ask me. I'll be listening. So ask me, and I can bring them up as a panelist, so you can have them on screen if you want to work with one person or speak to somebody. Everyone watching, if you want to put any questions to Beryl, put them in the Q&A. You can see it below, or in the chat box. I'll monitor it, and if we get a chance, I'll ask Beryl those questions. Okay, so thanks again. Off you go.
Thank you. First of all, I want to talk about a guy called Howard. And Howard has dementia. And he used to be a great musician, loved his music. And then he went into a facility, and he just sat in a dark room, felt sorry for himself, just thought about this is the end, full of anxiety, fear of how long is this going to be, his family too, depression. And nobody got to know Howard. They were so task oriented, and get up at this time, have your lunch at this time, do this, sit here, sit there. And he had sundowner syndrome. Sundowner syndrome is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, around that time. They often go off. People often call it wandering. They go wandering. Well, they're not wandering. They're walking with a purpose. In their mind, they're looking for someone, something, etc. And as a dementia consultant and emotional intelligence development specialist, the specialist goes in and found out about that and asked what kind of music he liked. So he said, how about you all just sit around with him, his friends and relatives at that time, and play music, talk about the times when that music was important to him and some of the memories. And you know what? And raise the light in the room. Do not have dark rooms, don't have the color red, have bright colors around. Make sure they're getting their vitamin D. And his whole mood changed. His emotions changed. They got back some of the time, some not, but a lot more of the time they got Howard back. And he could once again talk about feelings, and so could his family. What a wonderful job you can do when you're an emotional coach. And that's what I consider myself to be, an emotional intelligence development specialist. I don't just call myself a hypnotherapist anymore, because I have so many other things that I offer. NLP, EFT, coaching, I'm a trainer. I used to be a school principal. And when emotions get high, then everything else kind of goes low. The thing is, can we use emotions intelligently? People often say to me, how can emotions be intelligent? How can intelligence be emotional? It seems to be a paradox, an oxymoron, but it is true, it can be. And so I'm Beryl Coma, and I used to be a school principal, and then I was head of a department at the university. But the toughest day I ever had, or one of them, was the day one of the twins in the school, it's grade 1, one of them was killed in a car accident. The next day, the other twin, gorgeous boy, I remember his long, long eyelashes, beautiful boys, was there. And I had to call the whole school into the playground, tell them what had happened and how to respond to Faraz, because Faraz had died, and what that meant. You know, to this day, I still can't remember what I said, bearing in mind that all the kids are Muslim. The Muslim staff would be watching to see what's she going to do and how's she going to explain this. But I just focused on that one little boy and what we all needed to do for that one little boy who was left, and how to talk with him, how to play, and that his world and our world still goes on. So when I'm emotional intelligent coach like you, hypnotherapist, I work with teens. We talk about feelings. I talk with children and adults. Let's face it, we're talking about feelings and we're problem solving. We don't delve like psychologists into why do you think this happened, why. In fact, I never use the word why. It's how are we going to get through that? How are we going to get you from where you are to where you're going to be? So today I want to talk about emotional intelligence, just a little bit of the theory, what it is, and how you already as a hypnotherapist, you are already an emotional intelligence coach. You just didn't know it. And if you have problems explaining to people I'm a hypnotherapist, and then you get the, oh, no, I don't want hypnotherapy. That people don't like the word therapy even. I'm not sick. But if you say I'm an emotional intelligence coach or a specialist, they lean forward. Oh, what's that? Oh, I've heard about emotional intelligence. The benefits for you are huge. You'll find that you get people to come and see you more easily. Or if you work in the corporate area with the police and hospital, schools, as I do, they will ask you to come in and talk, because it sounds like that's what I want. I don't think I want hypnotherapy, but I do want more emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of, understand your own emotions and manage them, and understand and work with the emotions of other people around you so that you can manage the relationship. And that's what we all want, isn't it? Relationship management. But people focus on the relationship management instead of the other things. So that's EI, emotional intelligence. EQ is the measurement of our emotional intelligence. And there are a few tests out there, some of them not so reliable, some not being tested so efficiently. The whole movement of emotional intelligence has only been going since 1991, when two professors, one from Yale and Harvard, wrote a paper that was picked up by Daniel Goleman, and he wrote about that in his book on emotional intelligence, which I don't recommend anymore because the whole thinking has changed an awful lot since then, and we've got more data. But it does talk, it is about the two parts of the brain, or even more parts of the brain if we add in superconscious and unconscious and things like that. So EQ is the measurement. I'm qualified to use the Mesquite test, which is the Myers-Salovey-Caruso emotional intelligence test. And we do find, in fact, hold on to yourselves, that women usually are about 4 points higher than men in their emotional intelligence. Not all, there are some very emotionally intelligent men, but that's mostly because women tend to have more emotional literacy. They're able to talk more about emotions. From when they're small children, you'll see little girls playing house with their dolls and talking about emotions and feelings. Whereas boys, they have a feeling, they tend to get the sword out and bash each other. That's as a generalization and distorted and deleting some information. But the scores usually are that women, or maybe it's just the test are more women focused, but that's the findings at the moment. When I say the word intelligence, I wonder what it means to you. Think about that. When you say, oh, he's intelligent, or I'm not as intelligent as you, or, oh, you're so intelligent. I hear that all the time. It usually means something like an intelligence test, like you took the 11 plus, passed or didn't pass, which was an awful way of talking about it. In fact, there are 9 intelligences. Most people don't realize that. The first one, let's go through them. The first one is our mathematical intelligence, logical intelligence. You know that one where they say a circle plus a square equals a triangle and fill in the blank and things like that. It's not learning of formulas and things, it's logical, mathematical intelligence. And that's pretty important if you're going to be a scientist. It's important if you're going to even be a carpenter. You need to be able to measure and use mathematics and logic and what will fit and what won't fit. The second one is our linguistic intelligence, learning of language. You know, the sentence where I went to school yesterday, today I fill in the blank, I'm going to school. So, how easy is it for you to learn languages, to talk? I'm pretty linguistic because I enjoy talking and I enjoy languages. I love playing with words and writing little poems and things like that. But it doesn't mean I'm intelligent as the word, it's just that you sound so. The third is our visual intelligence. For example, Picasso may not have been able to speak a word or be very auditory, maybe, but he was very visual. It took me a long time because I'm not so visual, but to understand when he went through his cube period, to understand and to see what those cubes were and to see how our Salvador Dali or something. So visual intelligence is very important if you're going into the rag trade, for example, but maybe your auditory skills are not so important. So you may seem very intelligent in the field where you are. Then there's our auditory intelligence, listening, being able to talk, persuade. I guess the politicians have a lot of that. Kinesthetic is the touchy-feely. I mean, if I go for a massage, I want somebody who's very kinesthetic, who can say, oh, I can feel that muscle, I can feel this. I don't want somebody necessarily who's very auditory and needs to talk all the time. So that's 5. Now, number 6 and 7 are interesting because they're the intrapersonal intelligence, which is your self-awareness and your self-management. How aware of your own feelings and thoughts, and can you manage those? And then number 7 is our interpersonal. So self-awareness. Am I aware how you feel? Actually, I can't see you all. And that's why it's so difficult doing Zooms, because I can't see your reactions. I can't know what's going on for you right now. So I can only guess or feel what it would be like if I were in the audience now listening to myself. And if I have social awareness, I can manage the relationships. So you've got those 4 quadrants. Now, people tend to focus on the last one, relationship management. I have a lot of people coming, I want to manage my relationship, I'm working on it, etc. And they focus on this one quadrant. But you can't have that relationship management if you don't have social awareness. How do they feel? What are their interests? Like going back to Howard, who went as people said, wandering off. But when you saw it as wandering with purpose, what is he looking for? There's a purpose there, or he wouldn't. What's going on at that time in the afternoon? So there's social awareness. But you cannot have social awareness if you're not aware of self, if you don't have emotional literacy to describe your feelings, to know, and to maybe ask those questions of the person to find out, do they understand the words the way you do? For example, all those words, things that you can't put in a bucket, like intelligence, like love, like joy, like anxiety. I can use those words, but you don't know how those feel to me unless you ask the question, or I ask the question of you. And then we can manage the relationship. So self-awareness leads to self-management. I think it was Dr. Phil who said, you cannot manage what you don't acknowledge. If we have those, we can be interpersonal with social awareness and relationship management. And then we have number 8 and 9 of the intelligences left. 8 being our naturalistic intelligence, talking to the plants, getting out in the sunshine, moving our bodies, feeling part of nature, being good with animals. Yeah. For example, in Dubai, where I'm still resident, the Pakistani gardeners often can't read and write, but it's amazing. They can make things grow in sand. In sand. I can't get things to grow with the best compost in the world, but they just seem to be able to do it because they've got that naturalistic intelligence from an early age. And all of these intelligences can be raised. The 9th emotional intelligence is existential intelligence, or spiritual, not religious. Religious, which is full of don't do this and mustn't do this and shouldn't do that. But those big questions. And children have it. 4 or 5-year-olds will ask, where did I come from? What is death? How big is God? They very much have this existential, spiritual awareness until we tell them not to think that way. So these 9 intelligences are well researched. I even learned about them in the 60s, Professor Howard Gardner's work. So when you put things into that context, we're already doing that. When people come and, I want a better relationship, or I want to get rid of my phobias, we're going back to self-awareness, to self-management, and then putting them in the social context. And this movement that started in the 90s, late 90s, I went to the first emotional intelligence convention in 2003. It was in the Netherlands. I was the only hypnotherapist there. There was one other NLP person there, and who also did EFT. But the movement has grown without us, and we should have been, well, sorry about that word, should I? Try to avoid it. We could have been the leaders in that movement, and maybe we still can, because it has been shown and proven that people with emotional intelligence get promotion. They're the ones who are kept in the job when the others leave, because they're good with people. And these are the things that are not taught at school. So you can go into schools and teach emotional intelligence. You can have programs. Many of my hypnosis students now are running my courses on how to raise an emotionally intelligent child, how to talk with a teen emotionally. And one of the things that I've been interested in, because of that time when I had to talk to that whole school of kids about a death, is grief. Grief and broken hearts. I've been through the grief of losing people close to me, and including my dear husband, and I've been in a situation, a civil war, where I saw dead bodies bloated at the side of the road and things like that. How do we get through that? Grief is about loss, and it can be real loss, that somebody has actually been lost to them, or a job loss, as now people are losing their jobs, a health loss, any loss at all. We go through the grieving process. So it can be real and right now. It could be anticipatory, you know, that I anticipate losing something. So back to Howard and his dementia and how emotional some of those relatives get, well, all of them, because they're anticipating things are going to get worse. They're anticipating death, they're anticipating. And then there's grief about loss of things in the past. What is the world going through now? It's grieving. And the effects of grief are things like nightmares, insomnia, anxiety, stress, depression, post-traumatic stress. In my mind, it's just my opinion, but I've tested it many times, is everything we deal with as hypnotherapists and therapists in any shape or form, it's all trauma. It's all trauma from the past, and how we develop these patterns in dealing with trauma. It's just as traumatic for a 5-year-old to be told by mummy, I haven't got time for you now. Your little brother's more important. I've got to feed him. That's as traumatic as being with your comrades in Vietnam and seeing them die. To that person at that time, if the perception is this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, it is the worst thing that ever happened to me. So I think everything we work with is trauma. And grief is a terrible trauma, the loss of things, the loss of my livelihood, the loss of my house, the loss of my job. Guilt. Yeah, grief involves guilt. I could have done things better. Why did I make that choice? Fear of it's going to happen again. The loss of my marriage, perhaps, to someone, and the fear it's going to happen to again. Well, we know, we get into those patterns, and that fear paralyzes us. And as we say, analysis is paralysis. The effects of grief is loss of appetite, or going to food for the old comfort thing, but it's not. It's to fill that void, to fill that loss. Energy loss, suicidal thoughts. And how can we respond to that? Well, some people dismiss it, you know, oh, don't be silly, you'll get over this, things will be fine. Some people disapprove, oh, you know, don't be so stupid, you know, you'll always find someone else. So there's dismissing, it's not important, disproving it, don't be silly, it's all in your imagination. Some people become oversympathetic. Oh, you poor thing, you know, I'm there for you, let me come over and do things for you. Well, that could get the person actually getting secondary gain. I like having this attention. Or they just keep going over that movie in their head over and over and over again. The best way is to just tune in, empathize, and listen. The hardest thing is to just listen. We tend to go in and we want to fix things. You know, I'll fix it for you. I'll do it. I'll fix it. I know that the best thing that happened after my husband passed away, and we needed to get it. Burials are very fast in the Middle East, and I wanted to get everything. The cremation to happen, we had to get special permission from the Hindu temple because it's the only place for cremations in Dubai. Before there was a holiday for Eid and the National Day, and it was going to be 10 days before we could ever have a funeral. And I knew I couldn't cope, not knowing that we hadn't cremated him, that I'd looked after him, done my best, and we managed. It was the last one, and then everybody was away. People went away on this wonderful 10-day holiday to the Maldives and India and Bangkok, and I was all alone. And then a friend called and said she was coming over, and I was like, no, it's okay, no, because I didn't want to be bothered to anybody. She came over with a quiche, and we just sat on the veranda outside. And no, I don't want anything to eat. No, I don't want anything. And then she had a little piece, and just have a little piece because I made it. And that was the best thing. And she just listened. And she wasn't even the closest friend I had. She was my physiotherapist. But she just listened. She didn't fix. She didn't make. She just listened. And it was the first time I cried. And I cried my eyes out because somebody was listening. So the best thing is to tune in to the emotion, be there for that person, feel what they feel, and listen, discuss, empathize. Yeah, just encourage. And what more? What more do you want to say? What more? And we go through stages. The Kubler-Ross process is a process. Some people think you have to do this stage and this stage, and because it's called stages, but it's a process. And we go back and forward through these stages. The first is shock, disbelief. I can't believe this has happened to him, to her. I can't believe. There's still people who can't believe that Corona has happened. They haven't got past the shock, the disbelief, the denial, and then there's denial as well. You know, no, everything's going to be the way it was. What is this new normal? That's denial, because there can't be a new normal. It's just new, but that will become normal or whatever. So it doesn't mean just because we go into the denial, we've got over the shock and the disbelief, but there's also bargaining. Bargaining is another stage within this. If I'd done this, it wouldn't have happened. If I'd said that, it wouldn't have happened. Maybe because I had some plan for this year. Oh, my karma made this happen. So there's shock and disbelief, there's denial, there's bargaining. And then we get the guilt, the anger, the fear, the biggies, I call them. Anger, fear, and guilt. I don't know if you know EFT or any emotional stuff, but this finger is anger, which is why we kind of give people the anger finger. This fear, and this is guilt. If you see a child doing this, they're usually angry. If they're doing this with them, that's fear. And this one is usually guilt. I'm not diagnosing, I'm saying, look at those areas. But we can still go from those feelings of anger and fear and guilt back into shock, into disbelief, into denial. You know, look at where, be aware, back to that quadrant, be aware. You cannot manage what you don't acknowledge. And depression. Depression, again, not clinical depression necessarily. We use that word depression so lightly these days, and yet it's a sadness. The sadness, because things will never be the same. And we'll look at the loss. And finally, acceptance. Yeah, que sera, sera. Everything is as it is. These losses affect us and our relationships. These losses could be a loved one. It could be a pet. People don't realize just how much the death of a pet. I can see Jacqueline on here. She recently lost a pet, and it was very, very traumatic for you. I know, Jacqueline, still, even the new dog hasn't replaced the old one, and it's okay. Grief goes on forever. Yeah. Even acceptance of grief is still part of that process. There's loss of living situation. There's prolonged grief, prolonged reaction. And that's what we want to avoid, the reactions to it. I still think of it when I passed the American hospital in Dubai. It took a long time till I could walk in there. And it was only because somebody, one of my clients who was a cancer patient, was in there and needed me, that I actually made it into the hospital again after my husband passed. And there's loss of our beliefs, political beliefs. I always belong to that party. Now I belong to that party. Grief is beyond just losing a person. We go into mourning. Mourning can be cultural. My friends in Beirut now, so glad to see you, Daniel, by the way, and Eamon, and so sad for Beirut and your country. And if there's anybody else, I can't see everybody on the screen. But mourning is cultural. It has rituals, it has structure, it's an outward expression. And we in the West, we tend to, oh, so-and-so died, leave them alone, don't interrupt them. And people can be left for days and days alone. Whereas in another culture, oh, everybody goes in and joins in, and people might be forced to go along with this ritual that they don't really want. It's influenced by our personal beliefs, our personal, familial, cultural, religious, societal beliefs. And here's a little thing that I often use with clients. Beliefs. Think of the word beliefs. Imagine it's written in front of you. What is the word in the middle of beliefs? Has anybody got it? What is the word in the middle of beliefs? Yeah, Jacqueline, lies, lie. What are our beliefs? Our beliefs are actually the lies we tell ourselves that then become our beliefs. And to change our beliefs is, again, to give up something that we may have believed in or lied to ourselves about for a long, long time. But, you know, and accepting that is a big thing. It's a big thing. Grief can be triggered by events, by our senses, by a song, our song, by circumstances. And it can, if prolonged, it can affect so many things. I don't know, one of my clients, I think maybe watching, who had the perfect marriage, lost that perfect marriage within a year, still not sleeping well, her relationship with her family, her grief, feeling that she has to go through this is very hard. If prolonged, it also brings up the nature of our own death. How are we going to die? And some cultures are happy to talk about death, some not at all. Or some, the death has to have some sort of punishment with it. If there's a violence to do with that death, or unexpected, or like now, losing someone who's at a distance and you can't visit because of COVID, or in a care home. And I should have, you know, again, our beliefs, I should have been with them. They should have had somebody with them when they die. That belief takes you into your grieving pattern, into your stages of grief because of that belief. And yet, we don't talk about death. I'm opening up the question of death in the area where I live, because there are far more widows than there are widowers. It's a fact that in the statistics that women outlive men. We will live 4 or 5 years longer, and yet the men. I hear women saying, "Oh, I don't know what I'll do when Fred dies because I never drive on the wrong side of the road." They've lived in Spain 10 years, but it's still the wrong side of the road to them. Yeah. I don't know what I'll do about my residency. I don't know about the bank account. We need to start thinking about those things, so we empower the women to be able to do those things. So the gentlemen that are listening, please, you know, make sure that you leave documents where everything is, where things can be found. When people have loss, they stop caring for themselves very often. They don't look after their nutrition. So if you're their therapist or you're working with somebody who is grieving for someone who's lost, make sure that they're getting proper nutrition, regular eating, extra rest, and extra exercise too. Take them for a walk. Yeah, like, I've come to visit you, but I didn't do my walk today. Come with a walk for me and we'll talk while we walk, instead of just always sitting with food. Oral health. They don't look after their oral health, and there's a lot that can be found. We can detect cancers, for example, nowadays through oral health, even some dementias. So hence my passion for hypnodontics, by the way. I have to get a plug in for my book there. People are self-soothing in all sorts of ways. Check on how much alcohol is being bought, or are they starting to, I started to smoke after my husband died. I'd been, and I was the one who was helping everybody else to stop smoking. But it didn't last. I pulled up my socks, as they say, and got on with my life. But one of the things that I found in Dubai is a lot of young people come to Dubai, they're alone, they've left their families, mum's a long way away, and then they meet these gorgeous young Arab boys. They look so good and they smell so nice, and they fall in love to find out that, he's going to, he's going to marry Aisha, he's going to, mother's going to find him the cousin or something to, no, not my Muhammad, he wouldn't do that. No. And unfortunately, they end up with their broken hearts. And I became like Beryl. In fact, I was on Dubai TV for 2 years, once a month on a Saturday, Dubai's Agony Aunt, which was quite amusing, because I couldn't say words like sex or boyfriend. It had to be partner or fiance. It was, I couldn't really be myself. And there is actually a broken heart syndrome. People can die of a broken heart, or, mostly we say it as a joke, I'll die if he ever leaves me. It's called Takotsubo. Anyway, it's a Japanese name. Yeah, and it's a form of a cardiomyopathy, where soon after Fred dies, within a few weeks, Susie's gone. Yeah, because it has the same, it looks the same as angina, the shortness of breath, arrhythmia, and many of the effects of that broken heart can last, if they don't die of their broken heart, it can last for a long time. And they, ever since Fred died, Susie's been so sick. Well, maybe she did have that and it was never diagnosed and she was not helped through it. So I started looking at a lot of things to do with broken hearts. I studied my NLP techniques, my hypnosis, and I came up with the broken heart cure. Loved going around the world and teaching people how to do it, but I was always getting messages from people saying, oh, you trained my friend, can you train me? Can you tell me how it works, etc. So I made it into an e-course, because I'm one of those people, if I'm not busy, I'm a bit dangerous. So, and I get bored easily. So I've done that, know what to do about that. I'm busy on to the next thing. So I just made the e-course so people can learn. But there actually is a surge in stress hormones when, I know people say, he rejected me. But rejection is it's a nominalization. Rejection to me is not the same as rejection to you. What do you mean by rejection? A reject, a thing that we reject, doesn't meet our criteria. It's I used to work as a student in the Kellogg's cornflake factory in Salford, in Manchester, and there was the cornflakes used to come down through this big sort of chimney thing down onto this conveyor belt, and we were wearing our masks. So I wear the masks. We wore them all day with the net over our hair and the conveyor belt. And we had to pick out into a tray any of the cornflakes that didn't match the criteria. And they were called the rejects. The burnt ones, the ones that weren't the right color, etc., etc. I'm sure a machine does it now with laser or something. But yeah, we used to wear a mask all day long, guys. We can do it. And that's what a reject is. It didn't meet the criteria. People are not rejects. The first thing I do is get them to get rid of that word, he rejected me. Because then you're thinking of, I'm a reject. And that becomes your identification. So we need to get rid of that for a start. And he broke my heart. Well, once they can start to think of their heart as just a pump, and that actually love is in your head, it's in your senses. It's seeing someone, feeling somebody, the way they talk to you. It's all of those things. If you can start to think that love is in your head, and then from your head it affects your heart, yes. You know, you can get the arrhythmias, you can get the broken heart. But if you can fix it at the source, which is here, then with our NLP techniques, with our hypnosis, we can do that. And that involves things like, if it's because of rejection, their idea of rejection, there must have been some painful times, there must have been some horrible times. We'll change the movie on that, so that they start to think, I'm so glad he left. I'm so glad that he went, because now I don't see our relationship as something bright and colorful and, you know, happy ever after. I see it for its true worth, that it wasn't beautiful and there were sad times, and I'm so glad he's gone. So the changing of the movie, which takes you back to a different way of using the fast phobia cure, or as some people have been taught it, the rewind technique. Changing anchors. For those who know about anchors, you can use sliding anchors to go from unhappiness to happiness by changing the modalities and the anchor, whether it's a kinesthetic touch anchor, which we can't use now because we're on Zoom. We can use kinesthetic answer, like a drink of water, a fist, or fingers. You can have different feelings on each finger. We can use techniques like the new behavior generator. We can use seeing ourselves from other people's points of view. So who does love you unconditionally? Because obviously Fred left and he loved you conditionally. Who is this? Somebody who just loves you unconditionally. Oh, my pet, or my grandmother. Well, you can do a technique where you see that person on the other side of the glass and looking at you with those feelings, passing over, standing beside them, into them, seeing you from the other side, and seeing that's you, rewriting this whole story now. So you see it and feel it, absorb it in a whole new way. And some of you know these techniques from NLP and from your hypnosis work. You can use logical levels, not the first session, but logical levels to see. For those who don't know logical levels, it's a bit like Maslow's hierarchy of need in a way, where they can walk through their the logical levels and see where they're going and what they're going to do with their lives now that Fred is no longer there, because they had made a map of reality, you know, that anticipated life they've lost. Remember we talked about grief and loss of an anticipatory life that they were going to, Cinderella complex, they were going to live happily ever after. You can do mapping across techniques. Think of times when you were resilient, when you got through things that were tough, like college was tough for me. I had to work hard at it, but I always knew I could get through. I always knew I could. Well, you can map across to those feelings. For those who do mapping across techniques, you can do parts therapy. I'm a great lover of parts therapy. Some of the things I researched that have been found to be effective are lavender. You know, it's funny, I still think of the smell of lavender. My grandmother had that little, you know, that perfume that ladies had. Freddie, you'll remember this, maybe Eamon. Remember the 4711 before Granny could
still wear
afford
it, Beryl.
perfumes?
Beryl, I still wear that perfume. You
do? Okay,
yeah.
Very good. Reminds me of my granny. That's why I love you so much. You smell like my grandmother.
It must be. No one's ever said that to me before.
It's a beautiful memory.
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, when I hug you, that must be why I love hugging you so much. Yeah. But lavender, lavender pouches, wearing lavender, having lavender is apparently a good thing to lower emotional intensity. I haven't found it, but I've read that there's something called Moor extract, M-O-O-R, that's useful. Oxalis, which can be made into, oh, thank you, I can see my aromatherapist is on here, Paul. He probably knows what oxalis is. Touch massage. A lot of hypnotherapists in the States are also massage therapists. So maybe make a mixture of lavender and oxalis and this more extract. As I say, I haven't been able to find it anywhere. Maybe bathing with these things. Something called aurum rose, A-U-R-U-M, rose, and lavender together in a heart bath. Nursing therapy, massage. Cleveland Clinic has done quite a lot of work on this. I got a lot of information from the Cleveland Clinic. There's an online test even on how brokenhearted are you and some of the things you can do. But don't dismiss somebody as, oh, you'll get over it. Oh, everybody does. And just tune in and empathize and think of those things. So you could go over with, if you've got some lavender essential oils, you go over and meet Susie, who's grieving for Fred, and you say, Susie, while we talk and you tell me everything, let me just massage your hands. Let me just massage, and by giving that hand massage while you talk, is giving that touch, that love, that extra you.
Sarah, can I ask if there's a natural mourning period? You know, if someone's just lost someone they've been with for years and years, would you say to them, look, you know, it's just, there is a natural mourning period to go through before you start to deal with it? Or would you deal with it immediately?
Remember, you're mourning not just for a death of a loved one, you're mourning for the loss of a relationship, you're mourning for the loss of a job, you're mourning for the life that we had before COVID. I mean, some people are already moving on from this COVID thing. Some are not. There's nothing. Nobody can tell you it's right or wrong. And that's the unfortunate thing, that people do think that there is a proper mourning period and there isn't.
Right. Okay.
And it could be a life, but it's not the same depth. It's 10.5 years since my husband died. It's not a day goes by I don't think of him or wish he were here. It doesn't mean I'm miserable. It doesn't mean I'm in stress or anything, but yeah. And I miss the smells. I miss his bagpipes, you know? And quite honestly, I don't want to not feel that.
No.
Also, there's different ways of mourning.
Would you get
And it's
clients
okay.
to focus on the good memories? Does that help?
It
The good times?
depends. If it's the broken heart and he rejected me and, you know, everybody told me I shouldn't have been with him from the beginning, you don't want them remembering the good times. You actually want to cut it by remembering the bad times and thinking, thank God I'm out of it now. If it's the death of a loved one, yeah, it's about, again, what would that person want for you?
Yeah.
Was it an unconditional love? Did you talk about it? That's why it's important. I can see Alan and Linda are here as a couple. Have those conversations now while you're alive.
Yeah.
It's, you know, what would you want for me? They're difficult, but it's more difficult when one passes and you never had that conversation. So I get people to talk about them, even to little kids. I'm 71 now. I've got my will, I pay for my funeral plan, etc. But every time I say to I have an adopted daughter and her husband, Siamak, I keep saying, now on the computer is everything that you need. And oh no, I don't want to talk about it. I said, Siamak, if you don't talk about it, I'll have to find someone else. Yeah. But I trust you.
But I think it must be, I don't know, but I think it must be worse in the case of an unexpected death, an accident or a heart attack, when you don't know that, you haven't had that conversation, as you say. It's knowing when to have that conversation about, but I think maybe it's about telling the person you're with, when you think something, tell them rather than think it. So tell them that you love them, tell them that you care, tell them the things that we often think but we don't say. I think that's important.
Yeah, my husband and I had often been to movies where people are on life support and things like that, and he was a doctor. So we had both said to each other, oh my God, if I'm ever like that, please switch the machine off. Please, I just would not want to live. My husband, in the swine flu epidemic, was on the life support, like so many people now in COVID. So COVID is reminding me a lot about that. And there was a point where we had to make the decision. Because so many times they tried to extubate him and his heart he was on the verge of heart attack. So they put him back in again. And yeah, I had to give permission. Yeah. That's hard. I wouldn't want my worst enemy to go through that. No. To give permission for your loved one to go. So there's all types of grief. There's all types. And I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't even admit it to myself for 2 years. What I had done.
But you know, in your case, it was an act of kindness, wasn't it?
I don't think anybody can understand. I don't think you can put your take on that. But there was an agreement there from way back because we had talked about these things. Yeah. And I actually have in Spanish in my house a document that says in Spanish and in English, do not resuscitate and do not ventilate, because I wouldn't go through that myself. So we're made up of these memories, and I'm signed up to Dignitas as well. So people don't want to talk about death. Please, everybody who's listening, go and talk to at least 2 people that may survive you about death and the death that you want. It's very important. Yeah. Yeah. Do not be dismissive. Don't be disapproving. Just tune in to what's ever going on. So I can't see any questions yet. I'm not quite sure where to look. Oh, Q&A, maybe. Maybe you can shoot some off to me.
Yeah, I'll read one to you if you like, Beryl.
Okay.
Amy Ross has asked, What can we do to help people who do like you feel that it's something they have done, that resentment early on in the incident? That is the hardest part, to see our friends and loved ones holding on to that bargaining piece. Have I read that correctly? What can we do to help people who do, like you, feel that it's something they have done? So it's like, you know, they're blaming themselves.
Remember, the big ones that we deal with are fear, anger, and guilt. Yeah. So it's guilt, and guilt's always about the past. Fear's about the future. So I talk about how we're different parts. I know you're a great lover of parts therapy too, Freddie.
Yeah.
The different parts of us and how we're made up of all these different parts, and they're bargaining. So it could do parts therapy. You could do it with a visual squash. You can do it regular parts therapy. But what I would do ultimately is to make sure I put themselves in the chair. So chair therapy with self, and tell that person, that you, what they need to know. Mm-hmm. And then tap you on the forehead, be that you. Tell this you what she needs to know, until you get that agreement that it was the only thing you could do. And it was the kindest thing and the most loving thing. Because loving is hard. It's not easy.
Is chair therapy just done kind of consciously?
It can be done consciously. In NLP, you get the chairs. You get 3 chairs. So I'm me talking to that me there, okay? And having the dialogue. Then I actually get up, sit in the chair, talk to this me, have that dialogue. And then you stand as from the third position, looking at these 2 people and telling them the 2 parts of you, what they need to do. But you could do it in hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had well, she was a friend really, who came to me. She'd married a childhood sweetheart, and now they've been happy their whole life. He went off to her last memory was they were washing up together the evening before. He got up in the morning, went to work, and he just had a heart attack and died. Anyway, a long story short, she over a couple of years later, she'd met another man, strangely enough, the same name. His name was Malcolm. Her husband's name was Malcolm. But every year when the Christmas came around, her husband's birthday came around, certain bit of music came on, she got upset, and she felt it was unfair on the man that she was like seeing now, and she felt kind of guilty about the relationship. And what I did, and I don't know whether it's something you have done yourself, I'm sure you have, but I just hypnotized her. I've got to go back to the night before he died. So they were at the kitchen sink. And I just asked her I got her to ask her husband, the dead husband, the question, how does he feel about this new relationship? And to tell him everything she wanted to tell him that she never got to say. And although this all took place in her head, it made a massive difference for her.
Yeah.
So I think we do have some tools as hypnotherapists to, like you say, to go back and look at something again, reassess it again, have the conversation that you didn't have before, you should have had, or you wish you had had. So I think that's one of the tools we have as hypnotists.
Oh yeah, with the broken heart thing, with the the divorcee, while they're in hypnosis, they've got the cushion and they're giving that cushion Wally. you. And, they're always trying to be so nice and well-behaved, not say anything bad because of the kids, etc., etc. Whereas in the privacy of just being you, the hypnotherapist, with them, just giving that person hell until all of that energy, all of that pent-up anger is gone. And then be Joe. Listen to what you did to Susie. Yeah, listen to Susie's anger. Oh my God, I didn't realize it affected you so much. You never showed me that side of you, or whatever, until all the energy has gone out of this
Jacqueline has
grief.
said that
Yeah.
she uses the broken heart protocol for so many things. I think she uses it for things other than just broken hearts. That's the message she just left. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, she attended my training, I think I did in London, was it a year ago? 18 months ago, something like that.
Can we only learn the broken heart protocol in a live training with you, or have you written it down? Is there a book we can read?
Oh, it's available as an e-course. The e-course has all the process. I'm not a scripter. The process is there.
Okay.
Some different scenarios for different kinds of broken hearts, because sometimes you do need to keep a good relationship because the children are involved, or he has them at weekends, and all those different scenarios. So there's all those. There's 2 videos of me doing it as a demonstration. Hypnothoughts, actually. And
Is
there's
that
an
on
audio.
your website? Is that on your website?
BerylComa.com. And then go to the shop. Yeah. So that's the broken heart technique.
Okay.
And the reason there's 2 videos and there's the audio. And, well, that's funny, yeah, because the person who's in the audio did let go his broken heart, moved on to another relationship, and just recently got in touch because that relationship went west. And because he'd been so successful, this was something like 5 years ago, doing the broken heart, he asked me to do something similar with him on the. So it's not just women, men.
Yeah,
but men, they don't have the emotional. Does everybody understand what I mean by emotional literacy? We don't
have the same way to express ourselves as women.
You ask a woman.
There's that stiff upper lip that most men are supposed to have.
Yeah. So you ask a woman to give you 20 words for the, anger to them. They can find 20, but a man, maybe struggle after 5. Yeah, because they can get more in. Remember, we had feelings as Neanderthal man, whatever. We had feelings way before we had language. So language was never, ever adequate enough, sufficient enough to explain how we feel. Which is why we have so many expressions like pain in the neck or pain in the backside and things like that, because we just can't explain it. And that's why it's so useful to us to have NLP and senses say, well, what color is it? What shape? What size? What location? If it moved, which way would it move? And we actually get them to talk about feelings in a new way. Any other questions?
Someone, let me just I'll have a look quickly. Someone just, let me just read them out.
Oh, it's great to see Ayman Sawaf here. Ayman Sawaf is based in Beirut at the moment. A great friend, a wonderful person, and a great leader in the emotional intelligence movement.
All right.
So thank you for being there, Ayman.
Yeah, Amy has said the reason she asked the question about blame was a friend of hers, husband committed suicide on Thursday, and she wants to help her friend. Could you talk a bit of the language you use around speaking of suicide? Is that something you could do now or not?
Like I said, if she's going to see her friend now, it's the tune in to her emotion. Just say, tell me. Not even questions like yes or no questions. Just tell me more. Tell me more. Right. Because she will be so full of guilt. I should have known. I should have been able to tell him. I should have. There's so much of the should have. Listen to them. Just get them out. Yeah, if you can take her hand. I don't know if she can go and visit with COVID and stuff. do it anyway. Give her hand a little massage as she's talking. Or touch is so important. Listen, just listen, listen, listen. I'm sorry I have to go through that. I'm sorry. You can't solve it yet. And because everybody else is telling her she needs someone to just listen at the moment, to get that stuff out. And even to ask, are you angry with him? Because the one thing we don't want to express when we lose somebody is anger. Because we think we should honor the dead and say good things, etc. Instead of fucking angry at him for doing this. You know, that honesty, that raw emotion.
I think one of the things that COVID has made obvious is how important touch is, as you say. When we haven't been able to hug friends or family or touch someone's hand, I think that's made that very clear. This social isolation, how important that is to us. Yeah.
And even to give them things like something like a handkerchief that smells of us, back to the 4711 thing, you know. I wear a particular perfume, aromatics, that people always say, oh yeah, that smell, it always makes me think of you, Beryl.
Yeah.
So it'd be so nice to just spread your smell onto a tissue or a handkerchief and give it to people, but we can't even do that to our loved ones in care homes.
At the moment,
it's been.
Let's hope that we get this year out of the way and we'll get back to being able to meet people, hug people. It'd be a terrible situation if you and I meet and you can't hug and smell my perfume, my the smell of granny. It'd be a terrible thing. You can't experience my granny scent. That would be terrible.
I agree. It rocks my boat. Any other questions?
Is there any more questions? Let me have a quick look.
We've done the hour.
Let me think. It's a new message, yeah. Joel Minton's asked the question. I think if the grieving survivor who has that guilt asks for reassurance, what do you think? Then you can reassure suicide as an illness, not something that the loved ones could have prevented.
If it's a loved one and you say he had an illness, you're going into the blame game. I wouldn't go into the blame game.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't go there at all. With guilt, it's just guilt is forgiveness.
Right.
If that person loved you, is that what that person would do? You know
I think
where you're writing your biography, your autobiography, and then you become aware of a glass wall on one side, and you become aware that that person who loves you is there on the other side of the glass, and you can float up, leave your body there in the chair, float up and go behind the glass, stand next to that person who loves you unconditionally, step into their body, see you through their eyes.
I think what Joel was saying was, could you frame, if you for the woman that's grieving and blaming herself, maybe it was something I did that made my husband commit suicide. If you frame it as suicide as an illness, does that then alleviate any kind of blame the wife might have? I think that's the question she was asking.
It could be one of many things. It's an accumulation. Was he the kind of person that did things just for one reason? Or did he, like in choosing a house, did he choose a house just for one thing? Or did he look at several things? You're looking at this and think, you are the only person responsible for this. There are many factors.
Yeah.
Many factors.
There's a statement from Eamon And it's this: do you know how amazing you are, Beryl?
Thank you, Eamon. You're amazing. From you, who is an
Eamon, that was
amazing mentor
right,
person.
from all of us.
Thank you.
It's pretty much from all of us, but Eamon put it in words. Yeah.
Wow.
So someone else could frame. Someone just put framing it as an illness would put the close one. The I would have done something. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So yeah, they could feel that they should have done something. It was an illness. They could have got treatment for it some way. So I think you're right, Beryl. I think at that point in time, I think it's just about being there and listening, and without any judgment, any kind of criticism. I think that's the way we have to be, really, with all of our clients, no matter what they're doing, what they're saying. It's difficult, but I think to just, like you say, unconditional regard, appreciation, just listen without judgment, without any criticism. I think at that point in time is probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, back to those quadrants of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management. First is be aware of your feelings in this. You're going to open up Pandora's box. Be aware of your own feelings and managing them. And be aware of how they feel and manage that relationship, those 4 quadrants. If anybody wants to contact me, I can send them a document on those 4 quadrants to make it more visual.
That'd be very good. Can I contact you at your website?
BerylComa.com.
Right, okay.
Or BerylComa@gmail.com. I did have a few slides which would have shown this, but today we had a fire.
Yeah.
We had a fire in the village. My email's been off and on all day. I've got a different provider than my fabulous neighbor. I have to give a shout out to Mick. He's amazing. I also knew him in Dubai, and I'm actually in his room, in his office with a few written notes here.
Well, thank him from all of us as well, so that because we've had the chance to, so thank him from all of us for letting you use his room and his office. So we've all had the experience of listening to you tonight. It's been great. And I know it's later in Spain than it is here. It's probably gone 10 o'clock now. So I want to thank you very much, Beryl, for taking part and being part of my FredTalks. For anyone that hasn't been able to do this, it's going to be recorded. It will be on my YouTube channel. If you like, I'll send it to you, Beryl, so you can put it out on your website as well, if you like, or on your YouTube channel. But I truly, I love you. I love everything about you, and I'm so grateful. And for those who are listening, if you don't know already, Beryl's going to be on this new event called Trance Aid, where Beryl's going to be giving 50 minutes of her time, and it's for donation only. So you can donate £2, watch 24 great presenters, including me. But 24 great presenters over 24 hours. Beryl's going to be one of those presenters. And every single penny that's donated goes to Save the Children. And we've got, I think, up to close to 2,000 now since we opened it up the other day. So I'm really pleased, to be able to think that you're going to be on that with me, Beryl. And I'm really pleased that you actually accepted, the invite, because you're a major force in our world and people love you. So thanks again. So has anyone got any questions before we finish? Mostly all praise. You're epic. Yeah. So it's all good stuff, Beryl. So I'm going to say good night to you and thank you once again. Check Beryl out. Go to her website. Look at her products page. Get the Broken Hearts protocols, get Beryl's books, anything Beryl's attached to, buy it, improve your life, improve your client's life, and just by having Beryl in your life, your life's going to improve, I promise you. Okay, right, I'm going to thank you once again, Beryl, and I'm going to say good night to you, and good night to everyone that joined us tonight, and thanks for joining, and thanks for being part of it. It was a wonderful talk, and you know, I really appreciate it, Beryl. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Freddie.
Sorry, that broke up then. What did you say?
Thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. You know, we're all part of the same team as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of who I am has been through watching you work, I promise you. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So take care. Love to you all.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night to everyone. Bye.
Thank you.